I'm your host, Shane Carlson. How are we doing today? Sunday, later in the day than we usually have these lives. So you tell me, is this a good time? I wanted to try a different time um, because once we set a time for these lives on Sundays, I don't want to change it. So I'm going to try different time frames and see how it pans out. But let me know in the comments below what time is best for you. Good to see you all here. How is the sound? Please give me one of these in the comments here because I'm doing lives a little bit differently right now. I'm actually just using my iPad, but the past couple times that we've done it, the audio has been really bad, and I'm very conscious of that kind of stuff. So really temporarily, this is all I could do, like a Bluetooth situation. So as long sound is good. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Travis. Thank you, Amy, for doing that. So let me pull you guys up, and I think we have some fun things to talk about today. I was unsure what we.
Josh Riley's father worked in a
factory
until his job was shipped over.
There we go. I was a little unsure of what we should talk about today, but then it came to me. I've been reading a lot. This past summer, I don't know what happened. I just picked up a book after actually a couple of years of doing so. I think this was in early June. And since early June, I have not been currently reading a book. Like I've moved on to book to book to book to book. And I love this. It's always something I wanted to come back into my life. So I figured, I'm looking for recommendations. Maybe you're looking for recommendations of what we can read during the Halloween season. We're getting so close now, so close. So I picked out a couple of obvious, a couple of just things that I am reading that I think are appropriate for Halloween novels. But then I also picked some oddballs, and we'll talk about those. We'll see how it goes. I don't think I've ever talked about a book. And huge shout out to Anne. Anne's my friend. Anne's she's a buddy. Whenever I post something on Facebook, I never think anyone's going to see it, but Anne's always there. She always sees it and always gives me her 2 cents. So, well, thank you, Anne, and thank you for your super chat today. She says, "Hey, Shane, I finally caught a live show. Glad to be able to join the chat." Well, Anne, the feeling is mutual. Thank you for being here, and thank you again for your contribution. It does mean a lot. So thank you. Also, I do have candles. We're not going to just be talking about books. So maybe, I don't know how we'll do this. Maybe we'll do a book, a candle, book, candle, or we'll just go with it. Why we don't stress out. You're stressing me out. Relax, and let's get down to brass tacks. One thing that I need to mention, because I forgot last week, I have a giveaway to do. And it's not going to be one of these giveaways where I announce it and then we announce the winner a week, 10 days from now. We're gonna announce the giveaway in this moment, and that by the end of the show, a winner will be announced. There's only a couple things you need to qualify for to participate in this particular giveaway, and that's going to be, you have to be from the US, the United States. I am sorry, but shipping is insane. And frankly, shipping candles internationally, it's just not a safe thing to do. There's horror stories. Some of the horror stories are my own of having candles shipped from country to country. And it's there's nothing good about it unless it's an absolute desperate scenario. So as long as you are in the US, we'll do something international soon, but it will be something less fragile than a candle. Also, you're going to need access to the live chat. So if you're watching this after this live has been posted, I apologize, but by the time you're seeing this, someone will have won. And what will they win? Well, I'm glad you asked. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, this particular candle. what happened was I've been having a large collection, let's say, of my personal Halloween candles that have been a part of my collection, that have been loved and taken care of. Again, this space, they're over here, the candles, and over here and behind me and over on that wall. This is a temperature, humidity, and light controlled room. It's like a wine cellar for candles, and it's optimized, I think, um, to the best of my knowing, for what these candles need to age. So really, these are in pristine condition. But I had this candle up on eBay. This is Country Candle by Kringle Candle. It was a 2019 release, only released in this format in 2019, and it was called Black Cat. Now, Kringle released this in the limited edition soy wax tumbler, but on the first year that they put this out, they also put it in this apothecary jar, 2 wicks, paraffin wax. I forget how many ounces, 24 ounces, getting an extra 2 ounces with the Kringle on this candle. So a viewer of the channel, and a very nice, she wants to stay anonymous, and I get that, but very generous, very kind person bought this and then wrote to me and said, instead of shipping it to me, do a giveaway. I want someone who really, really wants this candle to have it. And with that said, I want to create this giveaway that is a little bit, I don't want to do like a hardcore trivia question of candles or movies. If you love candles, I don't care if you have 1 candle in your collection or 0 for that matter. If you think you like candles, you enjoy it, you want to be here and you want to celebrate the passion of scented wax, then you're qualified to win this candle. So I'm going to, a little bit later in the show, maybe in the middle of the show, I'm going to ask a question, and in the chat area here, not the comments, the chat will be your way to participate in this this giveaway. And by the end of the show, I will name it and I will ship it to you. And I will use fun things like Halloween tissue paper and put in some Tootsie Rolls, perhaps. So thank you all. Everyone's coming in now. Let's see if, someone says, well, that stinks. That's BB. I'm guessing BB is not from the US. I am sorry, BB. I think what we're going to need to do is a different kind of giveaway for a different kind of item that will be an international giveaway. You wouldn't want this shipped to you. You wouldn't want it. It would be broken, and it would cost like $70 US to ship it safely. Howard is from the UK. I apologize. I never neglect or never neglect to acknowledge my international viewers. It's a good percentage of you folks, and please know that's nothing personal here. All right, start out with a book. Let's just do 1 book. Let's do 2 books, but two obvious choices. I'm into the classics. I love classic fiction. If it's got like Penguin Classics anything on the book, I'm down. I love collecting different editions, different cover art. I love just the feel of a good book, whether it's in good shape or bad shape, whatever it may be. I have many editions of some of my favorite novels. And 2 of my favorite just happen to be 2 novels that we would need to discuss for this live. And that is going to be, well, first, sorry, this isn't a very picturesque cover art, but it's going to be Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And this is an edition that I am so excited to finally own. I didn't even know I wanted it until I held it in my hands. This is a Penguin's Classic cloth-bound edition. They have about 170 different titles released in this cloth-bound design, all designed by the same woman. I don't know her name, but it just looks good on the shelf, and they're all uniformed the more you have. But something I was not made aware of this year about Frankenstein, but something I needed to finally address was that there's actually several different versions of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And because, it obviously falls in the public domain, there's so many bootleg or independently printed versions of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And with that, that's great. But with that comes, it's hard to find a reliable source. You want to make sure that you're getting the real text. And something I've always known, but I paid attention to a little bit more this year was there. I don't know if people are torn, but there are a significant amount of differences between the 1818 original release of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and years later, in 1831, Mary went back to the book and corrected things, in her words, corrected to, maybe brush herself off, because she was 18 when she published the book. She wanted, wanted to clean it up a little bit. Maybe I'm sure there was some criticism towards the book, especially when it comes to sex and religion. So there were changes, but they're actually pretty significant. So if you plan on reading Frankenstein for the first time or the second time, all I can say is be conscious of which choice, which book, which version you want to read. Again, there's not many differences, but the differences that are there are pretty significant to the tone and the feel of the classic novel. And it is one of my personal favorites to read. Honestly, I don't think I ever step on an airplane without having a copy of Frankenstein, or knew it was coming, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Oh yeah. I don't know. There's just so much nostalgia. There's so much, the universe of Frankenstein and Dracula in the world of, cinema is so grand, and yeah, I don't think I read Dracula until I was about 16, and Frankenstein several years later. But the Frankenstein and Dracula have been a part of my life since I can remember. And it's not just the nostalgia that makes me love these books. It really is the content. These are classics for a reason. They really do speak to me, especially as the years go on. There's a lot of things that pop up in these books that put my mind in motion, make me think a little extra about what it means to be getting older and to be a human. Let's do a candle, and then we'll get into some other stuff. And I'll keep it shorter. I like talking. I do. I don't know if I like it or if it's just something I can't avoid. All right, I'm trying to think of what year. I think it was 2019. Village Candle out of Maine. They put out a Halloween trio. And you know how I feel about trios or duos. I like collections. And they put it out in the years following, but I just don't stay on top of this. I really wish I was that person for you guys who just keeps on top of all of the news in the candle industry. But I can't. I'm not that person. I think is that person. Brett from Philly Candleman. He does a really good job with that. He's much more of the investigative researcher than I am. Anyway, Village Candle. There's 3 candles here. This is listed as a limited edition, I think. The aluminum lid, I think, puts it automatically into the limited edition, but I don't know in what way it's limited, because I don't think these are hard to find. This is called The Haunted Mansion. No, just Haunted Mansion. And then on the label, let's get it nice and close here. This kind of looks like an Ansel Adams photograph. If you're familiar with Ansel Adams, just think of I don't know. I think of just very gothic, stark, very atmospheric and lonely photography. And a lot of the material in his photographs are things just like this, houses, churches. In fact, right by where Alfred Hitchcock shot the birds, literally a stone's throw, less than a stone's throw, is a chapel where Ansel Adams took a very famous photograph. And it's so weird how it's like, I feel like Ansel Adams and Alfred Hitchcock, they go hand in hand, right? Again, maybe you don't know Ansel Adams, but I don't know how much I know. I had a phase where I really enjoyed his work. Anyway, but it's just weird that like a large part of both Hitchcock and Adams was right there. This place in Bodega, California, where yeah, a large part of the birds was photographed. All right, haunted house. What do we want from a haunted house candle, guys? There's a haunted mansion. You know, if you're going to say haunted mansion, you have to imagine that people are going to eventually, if not immediately, make a connection with Disney's Haunted Mansion, right? And there's a lot of material there to be inspired from. But also, especially in this part of the world, and the deeper and deeper you go into New England, you know, there are such things as haunted mansions bigger than this. You know, there are just abandoned, you know, very gothic, even Victorian in style houses are just sitting there year after year, being beaten by the weather. And weirdly, as people, we are drawn to such grand structures that have this mystery. But what do we want to feed that curiosity that we have about haunted houses? What is it that we can recreate the experience of standing on the edge of the property, observing that haunted mansion in the distance? What aromatically could we put into a jar to recreate that experience in the comfort of your very own home? Well, I don't have an answer for that in the moment, but let's see what Village Candle has done and how it differs from all of the other many attempts from other candle companies. Let's go. I have smelled these before, but it's been a long time. I honestly don't remember. I have no idea. I would admit it if I did. Okay, this seems to be a popular direction. I think it's popular. You know, there is a personality to this candle, a personality like a person or a ghost. You see that thing that just flew across? A ghost, a spirit. By smelling this, I feel like I am getting a glimpse of smelling somebody nearby, somebody standing over my shoulder. And this person wasn't just shopping at the Gap 20 minutes ago. No. Something about this person who's very old, maybe older than what life permits us to be on this planet Earth. Maybe this person is the ghost of this particular mansion. And as striking as it is, and as obvious as it is, when you smell this kind of the smell of clothing and faint cologne. As obvious as it is, there's something still mysterious about it and still disguised by other aromatic things at play. I like this so far. I like this. This candle wants to play. It wants to play. Ooh, what is that? Come on, turn on that switch. Okay, so there is a pepper spice to this. It doesn't really smell like cracked black pepper. Like imagine you had one of those pre-ground jars of black or just ground pepper, right? but you left it in the cabinet for like 20 years. You just pull it out one day and you're like, how old is this jar of cracked black pepper? And how long does pepper last? Is it still, ingestible? Well, I love that, to be honest. Like, the culinary side of me doesn't really love that, but I just love the smell of really, really old black pepper. Um, and it takes on other aromas. It takes on surrounding aromas. So it might be pulling in some aromas from other things in that spice rack or spice cabinet. But it becomes dusty and it becomes spicy, but not, again, we know how black pepper smells. It's not spicy in like a wasabi or a cinnamon or, a poblano pepper, right? I could come up with something better than a poblano. It's spicy in that it tingles the nose. And to me, it's very aromatic, this pepper note that's coming through. But the association, the painting that it's creating is this very dusty setting where I smell, yes, this person, this ghost, this specter. But I'm not just smelling ghost. I'm in an environment, and the person, the ghost I'm smelling, is just a part of it. There is a spice in here, though. I think I got it. But I'm going to wait until the next time I smell this. Let my nose readjust for a second. This is pretty dark wax. Black, if not, super, super dark in its color. And I think that's appropriate because there is a very faint herbal thing that's happening here. Maybe not faint. Faint's not the right word. It's just not a super complex herbal thing. I think there is some form of herbal in like a licorice basil. Like licorice basil's not a thing. What I'm saying is some basil, fresh basil, has this very pungent licorice aroma. And it's interesting because that is very herbal, but that is also spicy, and it's also sometimes sweet. It's not sweet here. And there's a zestiness. There is a zestiness. Got it. Coriander. I don't know if I'm exactly right, but that's what's happening, right? There's a faint. I'm saying faint a lot, and I'll try to stop it. But like a curry powder thing happening here. Now, before you go, ooh, that's weird for a haunted mansion, although I don't see why that's weird. It's obviously not obvious because I didn't get it until my third lift of this jar to my nose. And it's disguised with the other components in there. There is this limey, citrusy, almost like dried lime zest. It's not like bright and, give me a glass of Sprite or 7-Up kind of lemon. It's a very zesty quality that doesn't seem fresh at all. Almost seems like, imagine a lime zest infused bar of soap, but that soap has sat there for years on end, waiting for some guest to use that fancy soap, but that guest never came. It has an old feel to it, or at least with the concept, that's where it's taken me. Yeah, I'm liking that, take everything I just said and just splash a little bit of Coca-Cola on there. I feel like that's very common. There is a sweetness here, but it's so minimal. And I wouldn't want anyone to say that I'm calling this candle sweet, but there is a sweetness there. And it works because it's like a root beer, cola, the root beer, medicinal, herbal, spicy thing. It all kind of plays together. But yeah, in this candle, we have a ghost. But as I've said, it's putting you in the environment of where this ghost dwells. And that is always cool. That is always cool. So I like it. I like it a lot. And we'll do the other two. Let me just do a couple books here. Now here's what I've read. Here's what I've been. Well, let me look at the comments while I do this because I'm trying to be so much better about reading comments. I think Village was bought out. Village was purchased by Stonewall Kitchen. I think they purchased them, unless the conglomerate that also owns Stonewall Kitchen also bought Village Candle. I don't know how it works. But yes, there was a change of hands just in the past few years. John R., I like your Dracula comment here. Looks like a great candle. Forbidden Forest is my favorite Village candle. How odd is it that it's right here by my feet? I have it, I'm always reorganizing my candles, but yeah, it never stops. So there's oftentimes there's candles sprawled throughout my studio space here. Check this out. The English class I took was all classic Gothic novels. Hey now, that's pretty cool. I took Greek mythology. Cool. I'm reading your comments, folks. Thanks for all the comments. If you have any questions, feel free to send them out, and I will try to get to them. I was the ventilation fan. I wasn't joking when I said controlled environment here. But hello from the Netherlands. Hello, Nikki. How are we doing? All right. So I've also, it sounds so obvious, and I'm sorry, but I've been jumping back to Stephen King a little bit. I love Stephen King. I read many of his novels sporadically throughout my life. I'm not a big fan of the films adaptations. A lot of people, when they say they're Stephen King fan, they're a big fan of the adaptation. Other than The Shining, which he clearly says he despises, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining, and what Rob Reiner has done, Stand By Me and Misery, and of course Shawshank Redemption. Great stuff. But I'm a big fan of his work. I love the way he writes. It's funny. It's kind of timeless in a way. And I read a lot of these novels. It doesn't feel like they're dated, and yet the books, a lot of the novels are very particular about the time in which they take place. Very interesting. So I've been reading some Stephen King novels, and I'd like to share them with you. What have I read? I can't believe I never read this one in the past, so I picked it up. Oh yes, Pet Sematary. Okay. Now, I watch YouTube as well, and I've watched a lot of people review this book or share their feelings about it. Pet Sematary. And I have my own words to share with you regarding this book and how I feel. It is very scary. It is a very scary book, but not scary for the reasons I thought it was going to be scary. This is a bad nightmare. Like, if you want to have a waking nightmare, one of those that you wake up and you're like, I'm not going to be able to shake this off today. Okay, so you have to be willingly, you have to be willing for that to occur when going into this book. And some of the times when you're reading, you're like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that scary. But then, it's the night after or the day after you're thinking about it, and you're like, this is pretty heavy. like this is, I'm putting myself through something right now. I'm not going to give any spoilers, but there's a lot of talk about what death means and what comes afterwards, and losing loved ones, and also what that means, and how it affects all of us, and how sometimes things that are dead, better to stay that way. Better to stay that way. I recommend it. But if you're a little bit squeamish of like heavy topics, especially when it comes to like animals and children, you know, maybe we could recommend another. But I enjoyed it. I really did. Like, that's not a book I'm ever going to forget. Like some books you read and they just kind of fade. I won't forget that. That was like 2 days. I read it quickly. It was like 2 days where I was in that zone, the Pet Cemetery. Woo. All right. Have you guys read The Pet Cemetery? Now, Dead Zone, I'll be honest with you, I wasn't a big fan of the film, Christopher Walken, and I never saw the, what's his name? The television adaptation of this book. I don't even know how faithful that adaptation is, but I don't know. It's just the plot, the synopsis of this book never really spoke to me. I knew it was political to a certain respect, and I knew that it. I did. I had a basic knowledge of where the story, like what the story was, but not necessarily all the plot points. So I never wanted to read it and be like, oh, this is actually not really surprising. I actually know where this is going. But because it's one of his earliest novels, and I want to read all of his earliest novels first, I picked it up, and I'm glad I did, because this book is so much more than what the film was. I saw the film a long time ago. It never really made an impression. I apologize if it's a good film. It probably is. I just, it doesn't speak to me. But this is really not so much horror. It's got aspects of it that's very much thriller and suspense, but this is really more of, the journey someone makes when they've lost a large chunk of their life. They've lost the opportunity to live. I don't think I'm spoiling anything. The main character in this book just unfortunately goes into a really, really bad coma and loses many years of his life. And he suddenly wakes up one day and he realizes everything's gone, everything's changed. And it's spooky in that, because it's something that could very much happen to any one of us. And what I was kind of enjoying was the internal dialogue I was having with myself while reading it. When I was like, would I want to continue if I was in his place? He had many surgeries. He couldn't walk. He couldn't do anything. He's just the love of his life was married and had children. I was just kind of reading this. I'm like, I don't know how this guy's doing it. So, but it's very interesting, because it's very, very specific of when it takes place. It's like, I would say about 1970, 1978. The major action of this book occurs. And there's a lot of references in there. Now, I didn't grow up in the 70s, but if you did, I think this would be a nice time capsule in many ways to enjoy stepping back to the 70s, while also getting a very thoughtful, that's a good word for it, very thoughtful book. Let's do one more, and then I'll do a candle. All right, I haven't read it. I haven't read it, but I am reading it. Okay, so every time I said to myself in my life, I'm like, I got to read a Stephen King book. I really want to read a Stephen King book. I always shied away. Not just because of the size. This is, depending on the edition you have, it's close to 1,200 pages in length. But I've always stepped away from it because, maybe not to Stephen King, but to many Stephen King fans, this is like the Holy Grail. And I wanted to give it the most the most attention and absorb it as much as I possibly could. I didn't want to be distracted by, you know, having to put the book down and take a week off from reading. You know, this is a commitment. There's no way this is going to take me any shorter than 10 days to read, and possibly a lot longer. So I wanted to give it as much attention. So I finally, you know, bit the bullet. I'm reading it, and honestly, I'm only about 300 pages in. It's so good. It's so just put the movies away, whether you like them or not. It's a shame that we even need to bring up the movies, because the movies will never be this book. Already, there's so much more value in this book than you know, a 90 or 120-minute movie. No matter how many you make, I think if you are someone who knows or suspects that they have childhood trauma, I think this will be a valuable read. You know, it's nice to kind of be able to look at your own life, even though these children are going through really crazy scenarios, and even the adult versions, really crazy scenarios in their lives. You know, it kind of helps to see people share their story, to hear their struggles, and you know, it's like therapy in a way, while you get to hang out in a very creepy horror book novel. I mean, I can't give my full recommendation for it yet. I have not read the whole thing, but I really am enjoying it. I really am, and that's a great feeling. Like, I'm at a point now where I'm not worried about finishing it. I want to kind of take the time and enjoy it and move through it as slowly as need be. What are we saying? Evening, Shane. My first live show. First live show with you, and I'm lucky to follow. I am from the Netherlands, and I love Halloween and Harry Potter. I'm a Harry Potter collector, and I love Yankee Candle. Well, I think, Nikki, we have a good amount in common. I don't want to say I'm a huge Harry Potter collector, although I have a little Harry Potter collection. I'm very new to the world of Harry Potter. I saw Harry Potter when it first came out. I think I saw the first two when they first came out, but there was just years there. How many years? Like, we're like 20 plus years since the Sorcerer's Stone came out, where I just like, I don't feel it. It's not working with me. So I made the effort one Christmas vacation, like 3 or 4 years ago. I just watched a movie, one every day for 7 days, 8 days, and it was so much fun. And I immediately fell in love with it. And now it's like, yeah, I like, I have Hermione's and Harry Potter's wand, the replicas, come in nice little boxes. I'm not above that, I know I'm approaching 40, and I have Harry Potter wands. I'm okay with that. I'm not being sarcastic. Maybe a little bit sarcastic, but I am okay with that. It's who I am. As long as you realize that I'm not running around my house like late at night waving the wands like that. If you do that, we can talk about that. I sympathize, but I don't know if I can empathize with that. First Life 2, I'm from the UK. Joe Beans, thank you for joining. All right, Julie says, love the original movie just for the in-depth story of the characters. I definitely want to pick up the book and give it a read. Surprised I haven't done so already. That's what I kept saying. Every time I saw it on my shelf, I'm like, why haven't I done this? I've like a copy from the 80s, a copy from the 90s, early 2000s. Like, I kept buying it with all intentions to read it, but I just was afraid to do it because of just the big task. It's like watching Citizen Kane for the first time. Maybe that's an exaggeration. Maybe a better would be, watching the Rocky Horror Picture Show for the first time. You don't know if you're going to love it or hate it, but you want to make sure that you're giving every chance the movie has to make a big impression on you, because you want to love it. I don't know if I do. I try to. All right, candle time. Doot, doot, doot. That was Vanilla Ice. Pumpkin Scarecrow. Now, if you've been watching the Candle Enthusiast channel for, as long as I've been around, you'll know that this is a topic that comes up quite often. I've addressed my concepts for a Scarecrow-themed candle for many years. And to my knowledge, I didn't know any Scarecrow candle that existed before this one, and now Kringle's got one. I don't know if they still make it or what the story is, but I was just like, what's going on here? Like, people are struggling for Halloween concepts, and there's like the most obvious one that's right there that nobody's taking. And now everyone's got the Scarecrows, It's all good after I put the word out there. And one of the reasons why I love Scarecrows so much, we'll get to the candle. Calm down, right? You in a rush? I'm kidding, folks. I had this book when I was a child. I didn't keep it with my books. Oddly, I kept it with the Halloween decorations. This was a Scholastics book, and it was purchased at a book fair when my brother was probably like 5. And then it was purchased again by my other brother when he was 5. And then I probably purchased it again when I was 5. I got the hardcover copy. But this book is really great. It's called The Night the Scarecrow Walked by, what's her first name? Natalie Savage Carlson. We share a surname, Natalie and I. But what was really great about this book, I mean, yes, it's written in a fun way, but it's the illustrations. Oh, man, it's like a toned down version of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, done in pen instead of charcoal and graphite. There is undoubtedly this nostalgia. I don't know if it's because I grew up with the book or if it just pokes at that place in my heart. It just feels like vintage Halloween. And this is a little tale of a boy and girl, a brother and sister, who pass this Scarecrow every day and suspect that he might get up off his post and stroll around. And it turns out, maybe, just maybe, that he does. So I've always had a fond place in my heart. Never really found a Scarecrow movie that I loved. I mean, there's probably are some good ones. I just never really found any that I enjoyed. And Anne says I should read the story. Maybe one day we can do something like that. I've thought about that, and I've practiced reading aloud. Not very good. I can't even read your comments aloud. I don't think I'm dyslexic. I think I just something going on. Extremely spicy, red hot spicy, cinnamon, carrot cake, like cake, the actual cake, but also the frosting. It's very sweet. That sweetness is cut dramatically by the aggressiveness of that cinnamon spice. Melted butter. Yeah, if you ever clarified butter in the kitchen or you just melted butter, I don't know, in the microwave for your popcorn, there's something there. I'm not saying that's what's in the candle. I'm saying that's what it smells like. Nuttiness, most likely because of the spices, but there is a nuttiness coming through. Instead of trying to pick a nut, I don't know what nut this smells like, but it's an overall falls into the nut category. So think about that bowl of mixed nuts, shells too, not just the prize inside. We're talking about the whole shell. It's doing a lot of Christmas things for me. I don't have a problem with that. There is something that's pulling me, right? Something is telling me fireplace. And I'm trying to find why that is. There is like an antiqued wood is not good. Just old wood. I mean, antiqued implies that it's like some high-end old furniture. I just mean like furniture that's been in a house for like 60 years and it hasn't been moved. And it's just aggressively aromatic and defines what that house smells like. Sweet, sweet candy, sweet taffy, sweet gummy taffy, not acidic, not fruity, sweet, sweet. One more time. Yeah, okay, so to get a little bit funky on you, let's take a box of Red Hots. Let's put some fresh ground cinnamon on top of those Red Hots in a nice little bowl, microwave safe bowl. You see where I'm going with this. And then we put in a good amount of butter in that bowl. And we didn't like scorch this thing in the microwave. We didn't nuke it to high heaven. What we've done is just on low intensity. We've just really, really heated all of that up, and it's homogenized now. It's all one big giant goop of spicy, sweet, and savory, minus the salt, unsalted butter. Shane in his 50s. I sometimes wonder myself, who said that? Justin. I love that. I like it. I do. I do like this. I see where it's going. Can I be honest, though, for a second? If you were to create, or let's say, not say you, let's say anyone was proposed with the task of creating a Scarecrow candle, wouldn't it just be very close to what I just said? Wouldn't that be like the most, like the first assumption by anyone, right? Yeah, I mean, it's Scarecrow. Oh, corn stalks, pumpkin spice. Sweet, but still somehow woody to create the organicness of the outdoors. I get it. But tell me, and it's a very good candle. To me, it does seem a little bit like warm, cozy indoors by the fireplace. But, and that's very serviceable for this time of year or for the holiday season in general. But tell me for a second, if I said I had an alternate version of this candle, and it didn't make you feel warm and cozy, no. You didn't feel like you were comforted by the soft cushions of your love seat or sofa, by the fire, by the hearth, by the aromatic things that surround you in mugs, on plates, all of the wonderful aromas coming from the kitchen. There's a Christmas tree in the corner, you're smelling that too. If there's an orange stuffed in a stocking hanging over the fireplace, you're smelling that too. Like that is nice. But imagine if I said the alternative. I lost my train of thought there. If I said the alternative was you walked out one night into the pumpkin patch to take a really nice photograph, like a time-lapse photograph or a long shutter photograph, right? I don't know. Maybe there's an awesome sunset, but you'd fall and twist your ankle. That's a horrible thing. I hope that doesn't happen. I wish I could come up with something else. I don't know. You don't hurt yourself, but you're stuck. You're stuck. There's like quicksand. There we go. So you're nervous, but you know you'll survive, and you're not in agonizing pain. But you get your foot stuck in the sand or the dirt, the soil. It's pulling you down, right? And that sun goes down with it. And now it gets cold. Now it gets chilly. The moment that sun goes below the horizon, an instant of cold air just hits you in the face. And immediately the sounds of the wilderness, the creatures, the vegetation come alive. You hear the wolves, the coyotes, you hear the bullfrogs, the scratchings of all the many blades of grass rubbing up against each other. And you don't feel safe anymore. It doesn't seem so pretty. But the moon is there. It's your confidant, and it's your savior. And that moon illuminates that pumpkin patch. And for the briefest moment, you're content where you are. As bad of a situation that you're in, you're kind of saying, you know what? If I didn't get my foot stuck, I never would have experienced this moment. And just off in the distance there's that scarecrow. You just see the silhouette of the scarecrow. And I don't know. Maybe it's your eyes deceiving you. Maybe it's your imagination at work. But the scarecrow's eyes light up. And he does one of these to you. Yeah, one of those. Yeah, it gives you a wink. And then the lights go out. I'm sorry that I do these things. I'm sorry that I do it, but this is the way I think. To me, this would be very interesting if it was an outdoor experience. If something like the spice wasn't making me warm, there was something in it that was making me cold, and there's a foreboding presence. But we've all been in those scenarios where we're kind of spooked out. Maybe we're walking down like an old neighborhood and it's quiet at night and we're kind of spooked out, but we're also kind of enjoying it, right? We can have those moments. And what better moment to have them is, in autumn at night. And I think there's so much creativity for a candle to go in. And to me, just a little bit of a shame that I know it's called pumpkin scarecrow, but it has to just kind of take that first assumption. I think I could have put anyone on the spot and said, come up with a candle, pumpkin scarecrow. And this is exactly where they would have taken me. But imagine if people took some more risks. It's a great candle. I'm sure if you own it and you burn it, you like it. I remember people saying that it performed well. I burn this with holy ground together to create the perfect Halloween candle, says Amy. That's awesome. Because if you don't know Holy Ground by Witch City Wigs, it is a candle that is unapologetic when you sniff it, and it just tells you, we are outside. Your face is now in the grass, in the dirt. And yeah, it's moist, it's dank, it's green, it's cold. That is a very great example of a candle that doesn't try to do much, but what it does is clearly takes you to a cemetery, more specifically like an older historic cemetery, like the many cemeteries in and around Salem, Massachusetts. I think that's a great combination because you're getting the best of both worlds. Different haze smell very different. I would imagine that's true. I can't say I can speak to that. I mean, for me, sometimes hay is interchangeable with cornstalk. I don't know really what I imagine when I think the smell of hay. I think there's a lot of factors that come into play. A little bit of that barnyard thing is important sometimes. You put barnyard on a candle, no one's going to buy it. It's like, and yet some of the most expensive, most prestigious, most sought after wines in the world, barnyard. But you put it in a candle, no. Let's keep this going. This is fun. I'm going to move through these books a little bit quicker. I just want to show you some of these editions. So the Stephen King thing I was telling you about, like I'm not going to keep talking about Stephen King, but I wanted some nice editions because all my copies are just beat up and they're falling apart. I can't even donate them. They're such bad shape. So I thought I'd get some nice editions. I went through all the different publishers of these novels, and I picked my favorite cover. But not only that, but also which book feels comfortable in the hand. So we have The Shining. I have read The Shining, I think, a couple times. Another personal favorite of mine, and one of the earliest ones I've ever read, was Salem's Lot, his second novel. And his first novel, I I just want to show this cover. It's so cool. I'm not even a fan of this kind of comic book style. This is Carrie, and this is a limited edition, exclusive to the UK edition of Carrie. It was called the Halloween edition. I'm not getting it right. I should know this, but they had all of these really great cover art, and they look beat up like an old comic book, and it's just, you know what I mean? You just feel that crisp book in your hand. It makes me want to read it, and I've read it, and I will read it again. So just wanted to share that with you. All right, let's do a couple of recommendations here. So I won't say much about these, but I'll just bring them up. A book that's really has spoke to me, and actually I find to be quite frightening, but almost like that Pet Cemetery, in that Pet Cemetery way. It's more about being scared of the questions that the books or the authors propose. And in this case, we have Robert Louis Stevenson's The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, we all, right? I mean, whether it's cartoons, adaptate, we know the story. It's pointless to have to read it, right? We don't need to read it. We know the story. I recommend it. It's up there. This may be number 3 after Dracula and Frankenstein for me. And I lived within a stone's throw, literally within a stone's throw from where Robert Louis Stevenson lived for the majority, not the majority, for a long portion of his life. Not when he wrote this, but I feel like I have like in some crazy way, spiritual connection with him. And the classic, what is the classic story about this? He wrote it in like a day, and he threw it out. He burned it, and then he rewrote it. And that's what's published to this day. Maybe there were several other drafts. I don't know if that story is true, but that is someone who's possessed by some kind of, unfortunately, probably some kind of illness. Some problem is happening. And I think not saying anything personal about Mr. Stevenson. I'm saying that it's kind of frightening that someone would do something like that, to be able to write something so fast and it's so easy to just toss it in the garbage. A little bit of madness there that he may have shared with folks like Edgar Allan Poe and Ernest Hemingway. I don't know. You tell me. Hell House. Now, not the haunting of Hill House. Excuse me. This is Hell House by Richard Matheson. This is something, if you really want to find like an unsuspecting book to read for Halloween, and you love haunted houses, you love ghost stories. Oh man, like don't take it from me. Don't take it from me. Take it from the many folks who've loved, read, and reread this book. This is, I will agree with many folks in saying this is just about as good as it gets when it comes to hauntings, when it comes to ghosts, spooky tales, to chill the soul on a cold and stormy evening. Hell House, Robert Louis Stevenson, Richard Matheson. All right. And then I suppose I've already mentioned it, but yeah, so Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House. Really almost a duplicate of what I said about Hell House goes for that. I feel like they're just two enormous books that people pass by when they want a good spooky read. Speaking of spooky reads, here's one I read at a very ripe age of 11 or 12. Not appropriate, but I did it. I think my parents were just happy that I was reading a book. We have William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist. Okay, again, I'm dealing with books here. There's so many adaptations of these books. I feel like I keep saying the same thing. Like, if you like the movie, great, you'll love the book. But let's not just assume that they're one of the same. Whereas the director William Friedkin of The Exorcist, 1973, I believe, his language of cinema is what made that film as terrifying as it still is today. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care anyone says. The movie may not be timeless, but it's a time capsule, and it will scare you under the right conditions. It will. But the book is scarier in other ways. In many ways, it's far more intimate than the movie, the relationships that exist in the movie. I suppose that's not on purpose. I suppose that's just the what you get with the format. Book is a long format. Film is something we need to wrap up quite quick. But there's a lot of topics here that spin around. Losing a parent, questioning your faith, not really believing that you're doing the right thing at the right time, trying to be a good parent, the best that you can, establishing all of these things that we all struggle with, and then setting all of those things that we worry about on fire with the terror of something that hopefully we don't experience a lot, the possession of a very innocent young lady, young girl. And I can guarantee it that you put some time aside to read this book. It's one of those that's it is an experience. It is an experience. You feel it down to your bones. I don't know if it's something I would say it's terrifying. I don't think I was terrified when I read it. I don't know if I was 12. Maybe I was like 13. But I was young. I don't think I was terrified of it. But then again, I wasn't terrified of the movie. I was just one of those kids. Anyway, I think it's just a great, almost a documentary of a book as far as experiencing these troubles with the characters and knowing them so in depth and empathizing with them so deeply that we feel as though we are going through it with them together. Plus, it's just fun, man. Come on, like how it's a possessed little girl, right? She's harmless. She's Linda Blair. She's got apple cheeks, and but there's something there in the makeup of the mind when something goes wrong with a child and you see unnatural things come out of them, whether it be actions or language. It's a frightening thing. I just saw the trailer of that. I guess it's a horror movie. It's like the AI, intellectual intelligence, artificial intelligence, like little girl doll. A mother buys it for her daughter because she lost. I missed the beginning of the trailer. I don't know if she lost a friend or lost a sibling, but there's this artificial intelligence. The doll goes crazy, right? It's a story that's been told time and time again. However, the visuals were very spooky in this trailer. Like, they got some things right. Like, it's just when we see things that are not natural, it scares us and we don't know why. Whether it's the symmetry of a face, Michael Myers, right? Whether it's the just the not quite right. It's a spooky thing, and I think us not being able to identify specifically what it is makes it even scarier. And The Exorcist, it plays by those rules. There's something unnatural about what's happening to this girl. It's not for sure that she's actually possessed by the devil. It's not a demon, it's a devil, the devil. We don't know that for sure. She might just be a sick young girl, but it's that unnatural behavior that creates that morbid curiosity, and it's what keeps us up late at night watching. The Exorcist used to play on network television, highly edited. But I remember first time I saw The Exorcist was on like the WB, like 9 o'clock show on a Friday. Terry says, the Exorcist film was my first date. You know, I can see that. We must be around the same age because The Exorcist was re-released in theaters like 2000, maybe. I'll tell you my story. I took the day off from school. I didn't skip school. Like I didn't say, I didn't just skip class and run off to the mall. I told my mom and got my mom's blessing. I'm like, Mom, I love The Exorcist. I am a fanatic, an enthusiast, if you will, of horror cinema. And if I don't see The Exorcist on the big screen, I will never have that opportunity again. That's probably not true. I think I did see it again later in life on the big screen again. But I was determined that like this was the only chance I was able to see a movie that I loved so much on the big screen. So I not only got to miss school for that day, but I got to see it 3 times in one day. Yeah, yeah. And although I didn't have a date with me, the last showing, a bunch of my friends showed up. And I kind of felt cool. Like I was the guy who skipped school to go see The Exorcist. I wasn't that bad. Like I had some kind of charisma in high school. Not much, but some. Let's talk about a candle here. If I missed a question that you've asked and you'd really like to have it answered, don't feel like you can't post it again. Post it again because I'm trying to keep my eyes here, but it's so hard. I didn't even tell you what I'm smelling. Ooh. Oh. It's interesting. I almost want to keep smelling this without looking at the label because if I don't think about it too hard, I can't think of what the name of this candle is. Maybe we'll do that. I really can't remember. I can take a guess, like one of the words, and hopefully I'm showing it. I am not showing it in the right place. There we go. And let me smell it without for sure knowing the name of the candle. This is also a village candle, again, a part of this trio. We had the Haunted Mansion, Pumpkin Scarecrow, and this Boneyard something candle. Ooh, okay, so like a little like mint tea, like not spearmint. Yeah, not something very specific and not candy-esque. An herbal mint quality. Let's start there. But a massively sweet foundation. I just don't know how to classify it yet. Honestly, I have to hand it to Village Candle here. I kind of feel like I was putting down that Pumpkin Scarecrow a little bit. I shouldn't have, because these are tricky. These are not easy to wrap your mind around. I mean, to be vague about them is one thing, but to be overly specific on what you're actually smelling in these candles, I don't think it's actually that easy. Yeah, like I'm smelling like an old, unused mint green tea bag. Like you're really desperate, you want tea, and you go into that pantry and it's like decades old. If you haven't guessed, I don't clean my pantry and spice cabinet as much as I should. But needless to say, I feel like that's what it smells like. The herbal brings us outside. I kind of know that. I have a vague idea of what this candle's called. Brings us outside. The herbal kind of makes you think of not typical like grass in summer, but something a little bit more like in the realm of overgrowth. At least that's where it's taken me. There's something kind of a little bit exotic about this green grassy note. Again, to me, it smells like tea, but I'm putting in my mind where does this take me when I smell it if I put myself in a certain environment? And I do feel like I'm outside, and I feel like, there's that gust of wind, and you're like, you know what I mean? Like every now and then you're driving or walking, and you get like, ooh, did I just smell sage somewhere? Like something interesting happens. And in this case, it's a very like aromatic green smell in a tea format and mint. Okay. I'm getting there. Um, you know, when we smell candles, we say this all the time, right? We say, oh, this smells woody, woody. That's a dangerous thing to say, especially like wine too. That happens when you're doing wine analyses. That it's just so easy to say wood and call it a day, but there's such a world within that category. Um, and because this one speaks to me on a specific level, I'm going to go there. Uh, if you're not an avid griller, spend time by the barbecue or the smoker, whatever it is, um, do yourself a favor. Go to like Home Depot. You don't need to go further than that. Go to Home Depot or Lowe's and go into like, I don't know if it's the nursery, the outdoor section, like patio, porch section, where the barbecues and grills are, and take a look at the bagged hardwood wood chips. They'll have like cherry, apple, hickory, mesquite. They'll have an assortment of different wood chips, and yeah, they smell different. No fooling. They do have very specific characteristics, and I don't know if I could say for sure if I could classify what particular hardwood this smells like, but it brings me to that place in Home Depot. Usually when I walk by that aisle in Home Depot, I stop and I spend some time smelling those bags. I know it sounds weird, but I do it. And I think if I went with applewood, it would be very appropriate for this Halloween spooky autumn candle. And that makes sense, right? Like, I'm smelling that green, the tall grass, and I'm smelling that wood. What's the wood? Is it a casket? Well, you don't make wood out of, or you don't make caskets out of such wood like that. You usually use pine back in the old days. But maybe there is a lingering, forgotten, abandoned apple orchard. I know that the boneyard or graveyard is in the title of this. Maybe there's an apple orchard nearby, and the trees are so gnarly. The bark is just falling off the trees, and they're so overgrown that they've just become one homogeneous, apple tree cluster in the sky. Yeah, especially when it gets cold. If you go to older apple orchards, maybe they're not being harvested anymore. There's a lot. It's such a aromatic experience. It certainly was for me when I was a kid. But that's kind of cool. So it's a very fragrant, beautiful smelling fragrance, but it's also helping us establish the location of where this candle is trying to help us transport to. I just have to talk about the sweet component. This is a little weird. It's easy to smell the spearmint and the sweet component of this candle and make it say something like a Wrigley's spearmint gum. That's not what's happening. I can't even explain how this works, but sometimes you smell something, like I smell spearmint and sweetness, but I know that they don't belong together. They're like competing against each other. They're contrasting each other. And that's the case here. The sweetness is kind of an undescript, I don't know. The best I could come up with is like those after dinner mints, the big puffy ones that look like they're the shape of like pretzel nuggets. Use the little tongs to pick them up. Not the small ones, but they can be small. It doesn't matter. Those chalky and sweet, but not no real dominant flavor other than sugar Uh, that's what it smells like. You could say a hard candy like, a peppermint swirl. And although I said I feel like the peppermint and the sweetness are different components, I guess we can, imagine that, there's kind of like a peppermint swirl candy here. Bay laurel. Um, I said tea, but there's other things here. There's other organic things that are really bringing me outside, and bay laurel may be one of them. That's a fun candle. That's fun. Who loves this candle? I mean, maybe you like it, but who really loves this candle? I want to hear what you guys have to say. Maybe you are, excuse me, maybe you are discussing it. I'm just not looking at the comments, but this is interesting. If I thought, what is it called? Ghost Cemetery. If I remembered, I thought this was much more of like a chocolate s'mores marshmallow play. I forgot that it was this, peppermint tea and sweet candle. But I like it. I like it. And you see, as I moved through it slowly, the candle began to make sense. I didn't have to be like, oh, cemetery, ghost cemetery. Wait, why does it smell sweet? Why does it smell like peppermint? Well, we got there. Going through it and experiencing the aroma with some patience and some thought, get a little bit more clarity on the concept. I like it. I like this collection. I don't know if I will burn these, so make sure you continue to check out my eBay auctions. This is not really, I don't do this all the time. I do it like once a year, I don't want to make it look like I'm just peddling candles on the internet. I really am just trying to thin out my collection. And it's been hard. I won't lie. I sold the majority of all my Kringle Halloween candles. And it's kind of like just like pulling the Band-Aid off. Like, I just got to do it. I also had someone buy an entire collection of Witch City Wicks, the Halloween collection, Witch City Wicks, year 2019, I believe. That was really cool. I'm glad they all went to one home. I was selling them individually, but all ended up going to one person. That was really cool. So make sure you swing over to eBay periodically. Maybe save me as a seller, so whenever I post something, you get a little notification. The eBay seller name is Aromatic Adventures. Aromatic Adventures. And if you also look in the comments, or excuse me, in the description of any of my videos, you also see a link. I believe there's a link there for my eBay auctions. But fundamentally, all you really have to do is go to eBay, search, go to the search bar, just type in TCE, the Candle Enthusiast, TCE Halloween Candle. All my auctions, all my candle auctions anyway, will pop up. Just don't, never mind if every now and then there's like an old like Bob Dylan record that I put up for sale. That's not for the channel. That's just for me. Adam says, "Oh, Village Candle. I don't have any of them, and I have never smelled them before. What are their new? What are their name now? What? I don't know if I have a problem with reading or if it's just, I don't know. Like, here I am telling you that I read, and I do read pretty fast these days. But actually just reading comments, like, I think I have a problem. Maybe I just haven't drank enough coffee. I'm not sure what you're asking, Adam, and I think you realized that maybe you didn't type something correct, so feel free to put that in again. Virgil, still called Village Candle, just sold through the Stonewall Kitchen area. Still called Village Candle. Yeah, one thing I'm surprised I haven't done, like something that sounds very much like me, is visit the Stonewall Kitchen / Village Candle. I don't know if it's a flagship store or showroom, whatever it is, but there's a new one and it does exist and it's up in Maine. And I should have done that, shouldn't I? I think I actually asked Village Candle because we used to communicate, Village Candle and I. Yeah, we did. We did. We used to communicate. We haven't communicated in a long time. Nothing wrong. We had our differences and we went separate ways. No, there was nothing wrong. There was nothing wrong. Very nice folks. We had discussed me coming up there and doing like a video tour for both my channel and perhaps theirs. And I can't even remember why that didn't happen. I don't know if it was a conflict. It may have had something to do with the acquisition of Village Candle. It's something about that sounds right. I think there was a lot of folks who I was communicating with who suddenly were no longer with the company. I don't know what's going on either with the hands. I don't get it. Let's do a couple more books. What are you guys reading? I know you shared them. You probably shared a lot, but I haven't had a chance to read everything. So if you have a really good recommendation for a spooky book, something appropriate for Halloween specifically, like you can read spooky books all year round, but I want to get the Halloween feels. Got a couple more recommendations for you. I said I was going to show some obscure ones. I don't know if they're obscure or maybe they're just rare. I'm going to retell the story the best I could about this, but it was just one of those things that happened that was really rewarding. I was, as I usually do, on eBay, and I'm just looking for things that are incredibly inexpensive, but I can treat myself by buying them for a cheap cause, and it'll bring me great pleasure. A lot of people's garbage is, other people's treasure, and that's, that's how I treat myself. So I was looking for, really cool cover art. And I'm like, wow, look at this. Not only a cool cover art, but, great, great name, decent condition, a cauldron of witches. And it looks like the witch's cauldron label, the Kringle candle label. But I don't know if I purchased it at that point. Probably got it for like $2. Virgil, super chat. Happy Halloween season. Same to you and same to all of you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Virgil, for the support, constant support. Appreciate that very much. So I purchased it really because of the cover and the aesthetics. And then I got it and turned out it was very much about one of my favorite topics to read about in the world of nonfiction, like historical things. And that's going to be the Salem Witch Trials. And I'm like, wow, I've read several books about the Salem Witch Trials, and they've all been a little bit different. And this was published, I don't know, this is not even the first printing. I mean, this is, I think, pretty old. This may have go back to the 50s. So I figured the commentary of the book, was probably different then. There's probably some differences on how the story of the witch trials was told back in those days. And I read it, and it was fascinating. I loved the style of this writer, Clifford Lindsay Alderman. I loved it so much. I researched this gentleman, and it turns out he'd wrote several books on the topic of the Salem Witch Trials. And that's how I found this book. So I went back to eBay and actually sought out this book. It's called The Devil's Shadow, Clifford Lindsay Alderman. And although this book was good, this was just a fantastic read. So if you're not really into fiction, but you're into, that spooky, especially this year, Hocus Pocus 2, you're into that cozy New England, witchy, if that brings you there to Halloween, it's always hard to talk about the witch trials and like loving it at the same time and then make you feel warm and cozy. Like, yeah, that's kind of weird. However, it's kind of true, isn't it? Like, there's something, I think it's been, a long enough spread of time where we can look back at that and be horrified by what the circumstances of the Salem witch trial. But it's still intriguing and mystifying. And if you don't have the means of traveling to Salem, Massachusetts, it's things like this that will really help have you have that experience, or at least some frame of reference of what this corner of the world was like, what people were like, and yeah, how the commentary on what happened was told a little bit different 70 years ago. I don't know if it's that old. It could be older. It was actually kind of shocking. I remember reading that, like, the Salem witch trials weren't really all that talked about until the 20th century, like 30 years into the 20th century. Again, I could be a little bit wrong, off by a handful of years, but it wasn't until then that, like, I think Massachusetts, or maybe it was as specific as like the Salem Village, actually came out with like a public statement and said, like, we need to apologize. Like, the Salem witch trials, that was pretty dark stuff, and we do a good job not really addressing it, but I think we're ready now to kind of lay the cards on the table and apologize. Like, that was some spooky crap. Like, that was some horrific, like, the darkest sides of human behavior. And it's not like there's any animosity, shouldn't be animosity to them towards what the folks did. Because I do believe that at least some of them thought they were doing the right thing. And that's what's scary. That's what's scary. Anyway, I like Salem. I like it a lot. And those are some good books that you could probably pick up on eBay for like pennies. Mark Wright says, love Ray Bradbury. Yeah, I should have picked a Bradbury book to go into this. I read Fahrenheit 451 probably when I was like 19, and it was just one of those books. Like, yeah, I was like, probably read it cover to cover or close. But there's two books that I haven't read of his. One's a short story, and it was only recently I'm like, oh my God, I got to read these. Something Wicked This Way Comes is something that is long overdue. I have to read that. I've always loved that idea. I've never read it, obviously, but I've always loved this idea of kind of like a science fiction horror carnival. Something Wicked This Way Comes, the title. There's something about the energy of that just feels, I don't know, very intriguing and very fun. But also the short story The Jar. I actually have them on my wish list for Amazon. Somebody also said this. I agree with Violet. Something Wicked This Way Comes is great. I'm glad that you guys are getting to communicate. You're probably sharing a lot of things. Yes, Violet saying Something Wicked This Way Comes. Ray Bradbury. Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. House of Seven Gables, Nathaniel Hawthorne. It's crazy. I know so much about Nathaniel Hawthorne, but I've only read The Scarlet Letter. I've never read House of Seven Gables. I haven't, and it's like right there, like in Salem. Like I can just go. I could do like a whole video, like read the book, film it, bam, have all this insight. And why haven't I done that yet? I don't know. I got to do it. But yes, Nathaniel Hawthorne. I find the whole narrative of the Salem witch trials very disturbing. Yes. And I hope I made myself clear by saying, like, I don't look at it as like, oh, nostalgia, humans killing humans kind of thing. No, it's very disturbing. But I think, especially after being there, there's it kind of goes hand in hand. You know, you walk those streets, those stone streets, late at night, and you know when folks retreat inside their doors and close their windows, and there's something going on. Like, I don't know how much I believe in the paranormal, ghosts, metaphysical things. I don't know. I really don't. I don't have a stance. But there's something going on in the air of Salem, Massachusetts. That I know. That I know. There's something. And it's not my imagination. You know, I don't scare easily, but I know when something spooky is within the mist. And I feel like reading like stuff on Salem, or they have a wonderful exhibit at the museum in Salem. I think it's still there. Maybe it's not. I don't know if it's even permanent. Actually, I think it's at, if you're in the New York City area, the Historical Society, they're having a Salem exhibition right now. I highly recommend it because I believe it's the same exhibition that was in Salem. Could be wrong. But the Historical Society always does a great job. Anyway, like, it's not so much that I'm comforted by the story of Salem. It's just, it's fascinating. You know, I don't know if like people who read about the assassination of JFK, like, I don't find that very pleasing, but I can understand if you're fascinated by something. I was obsessed with the conspiracies of the death of Marilyn Monroe. I literally like procrastinated for like 2 weeks when I should have been studying for finals in college. This was when YouTube was like brand new, like almost non-existent. And I was just searching the internet for any videos on the subject I could find. And I did horrible on all my final exams because I was so hypnotized by the story. Like, how did this happen? Anyway, I'm rambling here. Okay, we got a giveaway to do, folks. And also, we have a package to open. We've already hit the 90-minute mark, and I apologize. Or I tell you that, yeah, I'm in no rush. I'm in no rush. Let's do this giveaway. Let me do the question. So, again, I don't want this to be a candle question. I want this to be, you know, there's someone out there who wants this. Maybe they're not a huge candle collector or fan, but maybe they're intrigued. You know, like, so I want to make this open to everybody. Black Cat by Kringle Candle. I was about to do something nostalgic, something Halloween nostalgic, but what if we're dealing with folks that are not that old? They're not going to have the same nostalgia. This is a powerful candle, folks. Like, it's one of those that really hits you from left field because it's mystical, it's mythic, it's Salem-esque, it's resinous, it's herbal, it's spicy. But it's so cartoony in a lovely Halloween sort of way. And that neon green, you just, I don't know, it's not what you expect. And maybe that's very appropriate for that black cat. Soapy and spicy and herbal. There's a lot going on in that, and it's very intense. Also, I will say, interesting choice for Christmas as well. So you can burn this through the season. Okay, so bum 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 bum. Let's do something. Oh my God, this is kind of unprofessional of me. Not that I'm professional. Who said I'm professional? I really thought like I would have like 15 options to choose from. Okay, here's one. I think we all can have experienced in our lifetimes trick-or-treating. You know, it's a favorite pastime of mine. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do a lot of it. Stopped trick-or-treating when I was like 7 because my older brother started doing putting on like seasonal events, like haunted houses. And I had to work. I worked that young, yeah. I worked at these haunted houses. So like I have very limited experience, but it makes me appreciate those experiences even more. So what? Yeah, I got it. Universal Studios movie monsters. You know, I'll name them, but I don't want to give the answer away. We know them, right? We talked about Frankenstein and Dracula, right? Well, so think about Universal Studios movie monsters. What was the movie monster or villain or protagonist, the name of the film? Who was it that I dressed up as the last time I went trick-or-treating? In the comments right now, first person to get that wins. And you can guess more than once. So, you know, try to think a little bit outside the box. Don't think of the obvious. I'm going to keep my eyes in there. Anne says the Mummy. It was not the Mummy. I loved the Mummy, but it was not. That was not what I dressed up as. It is one that probably won't jump out at you at first, but we all know it. We all know it. Maybe we haven't all seen it, but we know the monster that I dressed up as. The creature from the Black Lagoon. How awesome would that have been? How would that even be possible? That was my father's favorite movie monster, the creature from the Black Lagoon. More of a 50s, well, not more of, it was a 50s, close to 60s, right? No, maybe not, maybe 54. Anyway, a lot of the Universal horror films came out in the 40s, but the creature of Black Lagoon definitely belongs in that lineup. The Frankenstein, we have the Blob. The Blob, Adam? I'm just kidding. That would have been great. I wrote my college, I say this, it's not really true. I sometimes tell people I wrote my college thesis on The Blob, the film, you know, Steve McQueen film. It's not true, but I did write a very in-depth paper composition on The Blob in college, and I was actually very proud of it. Good guess. Not Universal horror, but definitely falls into that category. Dracula. I certainly did at some point dress up as Dracula, but that's not the answer that I'm looking for, Mark. Werewolf, as in the Wolfman, Lon Chaney Jr. Something very special about that movie. You know, AMC, way back in the day, maybe they still do it, but at least way back in the day, they would play like Universal horror marathons and other genres as well, but they would have like Universal Studio Monsters marathon specifically on certain nights as you approached Halloween. And I remember, I don't know, sometime in high school, like waking up in the middle of the night and I couldn't sleep, and I would always keep my television on, and the Wolfman was on. And weirdly, out of all the times that I've seen that film, I always go back to that experience, remembering that experience watching it, and it's what I enjoyed the most. You know, I just enjoyed that experience. There's something about watching it in the middle of the night, kind of sensing that moon was going to, or not moon, the sun was going to rise. I don't know, connected with it at that moment. I do see the right answer. I do see the right answer already. So someone has one. I'm going to go down the list here. Frankenstein's monster. Probably my favorite monster. Yeah, you know, if I were to have like a museum piece, like a legit life-size wax figure of any one character in cinema history, Frankenstein, Boris Karloff. Oh man, would I want something like that? And you're probably saying, why? Well, I don't know. I love wax museums. I love, you know, Madame Tussauds, but also, you know, the ones where the wax figures are just so far off. They look nothing like who they're trying to portray. There's just something about the feeling of being in a dark, cold wax museum You know, you feel like Vincent Price is standing around every corner. Um, yeah, Bigfoot. Nope, nope. I like Bigfoot. I do. In fact, I don't think I've officially told you guys, but I've been spending a lot of time in the Pacific Northwest, and I plan to be doing lots more. So videos, not just from New England, but it looks like we'll be getting some Pacific Northwest content in the coming year, maybe sooner. Seattle area. I love it. I do. I really love it a lot. The Phantom of the Opera. Claude Rains. Great answer. Is it Claude Rains? I believe it was Claude Rains who portrayed. I've never seen this film, The Phantom of the Opera. It's also one of those. But here's the thing. Claude Rains played the character that we're looking for here. So close, but not quite. So we have a couple Phantom of the Operas. We have a Nosferatu, F.W. Murnau's 1927 silent picture starring Max Schreck. Hunchback of Notre Dame, Lon Chaney, Man of a Thousand Faces, one of my childhood heroes. Oh, man. So good. Such a talented actor. And the fact that most of the population won't ever see his work because of the notion of, I can't sit through a silent film. So boring. So sad. It makes me wonder if all art at some point sooner or later will be boring. And then you have to help me out here because I don't recognize your name. But we have an answer, the correct answer. I'm going to spell it MCEL33 with the answer, The Invisible Man. That's right. Claude Rains from Casablanca, right? This mad, an H.G. Wells story. But the movie, I just think it's brilliant. There's something about his anger and frustration that's so unique. And there's something so fantasy-like in how the film was shot, especially those opening moments. It seems like a dream world, almost like German expressionism, like Nosferatu or The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. I loved that film growing up. I watched it over and over and over again. I thought it was funny. I thought it was amusing. I did think it was scary. I was so taken aback by the performance of Claude Rains and the fact that we actually don't even see his face in the film. It's really just his voice and his body underneath a bunch of bandages for the entirety of the film. I recommend it. I'm not going to say it's the greatest movie of all time, but I enjoyed it as a child, and I did. Practice as as a young trick-or-treater, I was practicing what I could to participate in safe trick-or-treating habits, and I thought it would be a good idea to put makeup all over my face. I think it was just like black makeup to camouflage in the darkness. That's dangerous, kids. Don't do that. Like, you don't want to wear all black on Halloween, but that's what I did. I did put I decided not to do the bandages. I wanted to be the visible man that just kind of camouflaged, and all you saw was my outfit. So I think I did. I think I just slathered on black makeup. But before I went out, my dad grabbed me from the back and was like, "What are you doing?" But that was the correct answer. The Invisible Man. Yeah, it looks like Rose had it. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, I nixed. They're like right next to each other. Oh, that is a bummer. Well, obviously Rose wins. I am so sorry. I wish I knew your name. MCEL33. You were so close. Like literally two guesses later, yours came in. I am so sorry I read that wrong. and you're saying no worries. Well, thank you for being good sport, because that's got to be kind of a letdown. But Rose, if you're with us, uh, you win this candle. This is straight from my collection. Is that special? Not necessarily, but I think it's kind of cool. You know, I love being gifted things that someone else that I know has owned. Like there's added value to it, and uh, and this is yours. So what you're going to do, Rose, is um, at your convenience. But I want to get this to you soon. You're going to write an email to candleenthusiast@yahoo.com. No just candleenthusiast@yahoo.com, and just say, hey, I'm Rose, or something like that. Like, just make your headline big and bold, and I'll find it, and we'll correspond, and we'll find out how we can get this candle to you safely. But congratulations. This is, again, this is not being given away because no one wants it. Somebody purchased this from me and said, you know, I thought it'd be a wonderful treat if we did a giveaway. It'd just be a way to celebrate the Halloween season. And I couldn't be more happy than to participate. And I was happy to do what I can to make sure that, I don't know, I'm hoping this goes into good hands. Rose, do you have good hands? I think you might have good hands. And MCEL, why don't you reach out to me too? Maybe we can work something out. Candleenthusiast@yahoo.com. So we have one more thing left to do. I hope that was fun. I mean, I hope to do bigger, more grand kind of giveaways. You know, I usually like to promote them on Instagram and on Facebook and things of that nature. But I thought there was something special about doing this. Like, hey, we're doing a giveaway. It's now, and someone's going to win, and it's going to be one of you guys. There's something special about that. A little Halloween treat. Now, I don't have a knife here, but I need to open this. Maria, okay. Yes, Maria, thank you for being such a great sport. I believe I'm reading these comments right. So we have a box here from a viewer, and I felt like this was perfect timing because for years now, maybe 5 years, I have been posting my P.O. Box address for folks who want to send me something, you know, whether it be something to talk about on a live or, you know, I've received so many beautiful like Christmas cards, birthday cards, like that's where it's at for me. Like I'm old school. I'm an old man when it comes to that, like a good old fashioned postcard, letter in the mail. The problem is I no longer have that P.O. box, and it's a drive to get there. That was one of the biggest problems. It's not necessarily a drive I want to make every day, but I have listed in every single video, almost every single video that I've ever made, my P.O. box saying, hey, if you want to send me anything, here's my address. And I can't go through every single video and change that. I mean, I guess I could, but that would honestly take me the better part of an entire workday. You know, it's not as easy to shuffle through the settings of YouTube as it should be. So I want to make an announcement. Please don't send anything to me there, because what's going to happen is it's going to be sent back to you. And that's sad because I'm feeling many people probably have sent me things, and I am afraid they think that I didn't want to accept it. So like, return it to sender. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want your card. That's not the case. I just don't have it anymore. But I will be getting a new one, and I'll let you guys know. Hopefully it's closer. And if you know, if there's something that must be shipped now, please don't send anything with money. There's other ways to support me. You don't have to send me gifts or things, you know. But if you must send something, reach out to me. Same email address, Candle Enthusiast, and maybe we can figure out. Yeah, there's got to be a way we can figure out how to get mail where I can accept it. That's not my residential address, because that's not safe. That's not safe. With that said, really cool viewer from Michigan, a viewer of quite some time now, I believe. Very cool guy. You know, he's reached out to me a bunch of times. I think we had several conversations, geeking out about candles. But he said, hey, I would love for you to come to Michigan and film some of the stuff that is out here. It's like, have you ever thought about going to Michigan? And I'm like, yeah, actually, I have, or at least, you know, yeah, I have. But he said, I want to send you a bunch of stuff to inspire you to come to Michigan. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. Let's do it up. So it's a good sized box, and it's actually quite heavy. So we're going to open this up. I don't have a knife. I just have this shipping. Oh man, I am just not prepared at all. Boner Jams. Boner Jams is in the house. I don't think we've ever really been officially acquainted. I've seen you on lives. I remember you popping up on one of my Yankee Candle Village Halloween lives. But I don't think we've ever been properly introduced. But $9.99 super chat. Hey guys, this is like, I know I've been mostly away from the channel for almost like 2 years now. Like I had a good run back in the late winter, spring of this year. But that's not because I don't want to do this, like it's just because I really can't, like it's one thing if I was a little bit younger and I could devote some more time to doing something passionate, but it gets, a point in your life, and it should have happened to me much sooner, where it's like, like I gotta be a more responsible adult. And if I'm like spending my own money to make these videos, not the candle videos. I think there's a large misconception that a lot of people think like I need money to talk about like what we did today. I could do this every day. I won't, for your sake. But this is easy. What's hard for me is like doing the stuff that I'm really passionate about. Like I'm trying to convince myself, can I afford to go up to New England this year for the Christmas season, the holiday season? Can I do it? Like, am I just throwing money away at this point? I've already done it 4 or 5 times up at Santa's Village, up Yankee Candle Village. Like, do I need to keep doing it? And it's hard for me, with the way things are financially. And I'm sure all of us feel the same way. I don't know if I can afford to do it. However, a little bit of help, right? $1. One. I'm serious. $1. Think about if every subscriber this channel has. We only have 6,000 subscribers here, but imagine if every person paid $1 a month. Not only would I be doing the Candle Enthusiast full time, and I work just about 7 days a week, so that tells you how much I'd work on it. But I'd also have I'd be able to pay like a partner, be like, hey, I'll throw you a couple bucks. Can I pay you for a day's worth of, make a bunch of phone calls for me and set up some meetings with some owners of destinations, that kind of help would be amazing. Like, I know I'm silly. Like, I don't look at myself as a YouTuber, but to me, I went to film school, guys. I want to make stuff with, I'm not trying to, put YouTube videos that look like movies, but like I want to tell stories and I want to make like videos that are solid. I want this to be kind of like my little legacy, whatever else I do in life to get the bills paid, whatever. But if I have this little legacy on the side and it's as great as I want it to be, I'll be a happy man. I'll be a happy man one day when I retire. So yeah, candle videos doesn't really take a lot of money. Candles cost a lot. Like I'm not gonna go out and buy like every Bath and Body Works candle, but I can buy some. But what costs a lot are like hotels and gas and lodging and transportation, admission, all that stuff. I'd love to do something really festive for Christmas this year. Got a couple ideas, and I need to decide soon. All right. One last thing. All the ways you can support the channel down in the description. So Patreon seems to be the most popular these days among YouTubers, but there's also like straight up donations. through PayPal. There's T-shirts through Spreadshirt.com. Not a large section there because I don't sell a lot. But if some T-shirts sell, maybe I'll make some new designs. But I like the ones that are there anyway. Matthew is his name. Michigan is where he comes from. And he sent me Costa Rican Finca La Margarita Desert Oasis Desert Oasis coffee roasters. Some Costa Rican coffee. Some of my favorites. You know, one of my favorite areas of the world for coffee, and that's a big region, right? So that's kind of a blanket statement. Like it's like saying, oh, I love New York City for a nice cafe. But where is the coffee roaster from? I'm supposing or guessing that it is from Michigan, proudly stationed in Michigan. Check out these not fragrance notes, just profile notes here. Process is natural versus like a wash, dry wash. I don't know. It's natural. Natural's good. Region, the Central Valley of Costa Rica, big region. Producer Heinz Hoffman, La Margarita. Variety H1 Centro Americana. That's it. It's easy. It's very easy to pronounce. Get all those letters in front of your eyes. You can read it. But look at that. How cool is this? And this is why Costa Rican coffee is great, because it's different than a lot of people might assume. It's not dark coffee, and it's not crazy complex and intense. No, it's kind of elegant, right? It's subtle in a very classy kind of way. Red candy apple, melon, and caramel. Oh, good God. Can I make a cup right now? I don't want to open up the bag right now, guys. I should. I'm hosting a show. I should open it up and smell it. I will do it. I'll do it for you guys. I don't know if I'm going to be able to drink this immediately. Oh, it's not sealed. I'm going to say that has a lot of aroma for a sealed bag. Wow. Okay, so to be clear, I know there's maybe some of you are not too familiar with how coffee works and flavored coffee. This is not flavored coffee. I don't believe. There's nothing in it to suggest that it's a flavored coffee. These notes that I've read off the bag are just geographically and varietal characteristics of the varietal and the place from which they come. There's a peanutty, very fruity, and sweet, perceived sweetness. That's something else. I smell a lot of coffee beans, but that is like a really intense. Every now and then you get a bean or a roast, and you're like, wow, like this smells wild. Like this smells like straight up blueberries. Not often does that happen, but every now and then you get one. And this is a scenario like that. Like this actually does smell very fruity, and not in just a basic, typical Costa Rican kind of way. I will thoroughly enjoy that. And maybe and let me know what you guys think. Maybe this means we need to do some more coffee content, And we just need content in general. Let's face it, we need content in general these days. But, maybe I should branch out. Maybe the candle enthusiast should be an enthusiast of all things while burning candles. What is going on here, Matthew? These seem to be... I wonder if Matthew's got a story with that coffee roaster, but this seems to just be like lovely gifts. but maybe this is a place. These places are places Matthew wants me to visit. We have Sanders Small Batch Wonders. Small batch. We're already in a good place. Triple chocolate gourmet cocoa mix. Good God. And Stephanie says yes to coffee content. I know Stephanie loves coffee. That is big. Like that is like I've bought things smaller than this for like $25, $30. So I hope like you got some connections, Matthew, and you got this for a good price, but this looks legit. Sugar, non-fat, dried milk, whey, creamer, coconut oil, cocoa powder, and a few things to stabilize it. That is fun. So let me put this out there. We're not going to go back. We won't only just go back to the Red Line Inn, meaning we may go back, but we're going to do other things before that. So let's paint a portrait here. Let's find a place, a really peaceful, very seasonal, very Christmassy holiday, the feels, a place to stay, a town to put ourselves in. We'll make a video, and we'll use this jar to make hot cocoa. And sit in a chair, sit on the mattress, and look out the window, and hopefully watch the snow falling down with the lights dim. Let's do that. Let's make that happen. I'll bring the hot chocolate. I'll bring the hot chocolate. You guys just hang around, and all the support. Got something wrapped here. We're over 2 hours at this point. How am I ever going to do this? Like, I find it so hard to stick to the hour format. I don't know how to do it. I'm really bad at timing myself. Not that I thought we were going to keep it under an hour, but I don't know. You'd think I would tire myself out from talking. Kalamazoo Candle Company. The title, Apple Harvest. All right. Kalamazoo, Michigan. Check this out, guys. I think I have some knowledge of Kalamazoo. I think I watched some YouTubers who've been there several times, kind of like a travel historic videos kind of thing. But that looks beautiful, and it says Main Street right there. So maybe this is a good place to visit if I do find myself in Michigan. See, I'm trying to see if this candle company actually produces the candle or if they buy the candle and slap their label on it. So you got to be careful. Sometimes that happens, but because it's called the Kalamazoo Candle Company, I'm assuming that wouldn't be done. And in fact, it's not, because it says produced by Kalamazoo Candle Company, made in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Okay, again, it's called Apple Harvest. We're dealing with some soy or vegetable wax here. Very clean pour on this. And Terry is saying she's also from Michigan, but I cannot pronounce that town. I am sorry. Spell it phonetically for me. Oh my God, this is so good. And it's so, it just, I think often when we smell something like this, we're like, oh man, I wish I could have this smell, but just so intense, like more intense. This is really intense. Like I'm feeling the aroma inside of my head, meaning like you smell it and it's in there until you exhale. That smell is in there. It is bright. Got to go Macintosh apple, baby. Bright Macintosh, juicy apple skins. Take just a big knife to a fresh apple off the tree and just gouge it and let that juice flow. Let it flow. Get it on your hands. Get it on your face. Whatever works for you. But make sure that juice is flowing and smell it. Woo! Intense. But there's some other things going on here, as there should be, because apples are great, but we got to set a tone. We got to tell a story here. There is a significant woodiness here. We talked about woodiness, right? And I don't know if I can quite classify it. I don't know if I want to, because what it's reminding me of, again, is being in that apple orchard. Or, I don't know, maybe I'm in like New England pushing like a wooden barrel. What do you call it? Wheelbarrow or some wagon on a handle that it's wood. And yeah, I'm getting the environment, not just the apple. And with a name like Apple Harvest, that's pretty important. And there's just a perceived, this is good. I can do this. This is good. Like, I can really talk about this a lot. I'll try to meet you halfway because I don't want to bore you. But there is I said bright, but it is acidic. What do we find in apples, right? Malic acid. Malic acid is what makes like Sour Patch Kids sour. There's some citric acid, but malic acid is that zing, kind of hurts right there a little bit. You start salivating. Malic acid just bam. And when you have the bright apple, you can't smell acidity, but in some cases it's going to be really tart, really acidic. This is like that razor blade of acidity, so fresh and clean and refreshing. And a perfectly ripe apple. It's not just tart, it's sweet, and there's that balance between sweet and tart. That's really what it's all about. That perfect moment. When do we pick these apples off the tree? It's right when that ratio is exactly where you want it. And with that said, although this is all fresh apple, like this is just fresh apple off the tree, I am a little bit torn because I do feel like I smell something along the lines of like a sparkling apple juice by Martinelli's. Like this stuff it's kind of dangerous for me. Like I'm addicted to sugar. Like I can become addicted to sugar. I have an addiction, and the addiction is sugar. Not really, but like I gotta be careful because sometimes I can really be affected by this stuff. And I remember having that feeling when I was living out in Napa Valley. When I worked at a winery, Napa Valley, we had to have like beverages for non-drinkers to be able to enjoy. So we'd have Martinelli's. The family who owned the winery was friends with the Martinellis. And what I would do is I would freeze these because there's so much sugar in it. Like as long as you didn't leave them in overnight, these little bottles of apple juice wouldn't completely freeze. They would just turn into slush. So good. It wasn't apple juice. Like it didn't taste like Mott's apple juice. Like it didn't have that golden, mature, oxidized apple kind of flavor profile. It was still really fresh and bright. And with that added CO2, that adds a perceived tartness. It really does. We perceive bubbles, sparkling wine, and soda. Our tongue receives that as acidic. So there's if you can imagine, a very fresh, bright, not apple cider, not Mott's apple juice, but a really fresh apple juice on ice, sparkling if you want it. And what I'm really impressed by is the skins. Like where apple candles, anything apple usually goes wrong is the complete neglect to address what the apple skins smell like and what the difference is from one variety to the next. This is great. Hey, if Kalamazoo Candle Company is making a bunch of candles at the caliber of this, I'm interested. I will burn this. This is something I will burn maybe tonight. Why not, right? Thank you very much. There's more. So am I going to go to Michigan? I'll fill you in to what I'm thinking. Think about driving cross country and making a video every day, documenting the experience. It's really the first time I've shared that with anyone, really. What do you think of that? Is that a good idea? Like if I forced myself every single day, no matter how good or bad my footage was, every day I'm traveling, filming, documenting my experience. And no matter what happens, no matter how bad or boring it is, I post it every day. I edit it and I post it. And it just becomes, God only knows how many hours would accumulate. Because if I drove across country, I wouldn't try to make good time. Like the whole idea, right, is to get off the highway and explore and really, can I do that? I don't know. I want to know that you guys are into it. And if you are, it's something I probably will be doing soon, one way or the other, whether I film it or not. Cherry mini bear. Oh God. Okay. Very cool here. So we have, a little honey bear. We often see these at like farm stands, for little gifts as you're checking out. But what makes this interesting is, well, one, yes, it is from Michigan, but it's got cherry in it. It says ingredients, two things, honey, cherry. That's it. Let's taste it. This is like a high quality bottle too. Is that glass? It's glass. This is not like a plastic bear. Oh, and it's all crystallized. Look at that. It's not like it's for the most part pretty solid. I think it's moving a little bit. I'm excited. I'm gonna taste it. Oh, there's some very heavy viscosity. Viscous things are happening in my little honey bear. All right. This is not sanitary, but we have to demonstrate this one way or the other. Oh man. No, let's get more. Like that's thick. I mean, that's the kind of honey you throw at a wall or someone's face and it just stays there. It doesn't slip off. Dripped a little bit. I don't want to contaminate this jar. Oh, but I do want to taste it. I'm going to use my pinky. That is so good. Oh, man. I can't say I'm shocked. It sounds like a great idea, honey and cherry. But why is this not a thing? There's that really rich and robust, warming flavor of honey. And then you throw in this really bright Bing cherry. It's bright. Pops in your mouth. What a wonderful combination. I'm going to do one more. Then I got to stay away. Otherwise, I'm going to be like licking this bottle, hiding in the corner in a little bit. That is really good. I mean, one, I can tell that this is high, like good. I don't know what high quality honey is, but this is good honey. Like this is not like, grocery store. I don't know. Maybe grocery stores have good honey. They probably do, but it doesn't. I've had bad honey and honey that has left very very little to be desired, and that is not the case with this bear. And that cherry is a really good idea. I immediately think in my mind cocktail. I'm kind of done with creating cocktails. Never really something I was interested in, but I enjoyed the concept of creating recipes for cocktails. So if you are a self-proclaimed mixologist, maybe that's a good idea. Honey and cherry. We have some literature, some paper for Michigan. Michigan, if you seek a pleasant peninsula Look about you, says the folks from Michigan. Beautiful postcard. That is cool. See, postcards. I love it. I'm having some, I don't know. I may have just burped a little bit, and I apologize, but it's natural. It's human functions. World's largest Christmas store. I thought that was in Tennessee, but maybe this place, which is, I believe it says Bronner's Christmas Wonderland. And I can't read that backwards. Frankenmuth, Michigan. Oh my God, everything about this sounds wonderful. Christmas Wonderland. It sounds like an easy name, but that really does pull at some images. And this looks like, does it not? It looks like a vintage brochure. Like this brochure was produced in 1961. That is incredible. Although I do think that there's several self-proclaimed largest Christmas stores in the world. I don't know if I've heard of this one. Who said they lived in Michigan? Have you heard of this place? If you're still with us, this looks fun. It looks like not just the store, but there's other activities within the town to do as well. This is something I'll have to look closely at. This is really what I'm gearing up towards as we near the holiday season. We have Silent Night Memorial Chapel. That's crazy. You see that? Looks like a wind, not a windmill. What do you call that? Lighthouse. Okay, River Place Shops, Frankenmuth. I hope I'm saying this right. So that wasn't the name of the place. No, it was the name of the town. Frankenmuth. River Place Shops. This looks like a plaza, like a Bavarian style plaza, but not like an authentic Bavarian. It's like that old school attraction, like 60s, 70s attraction Bavarian, like the Yankee Candle Village or Storyland in Lake George, Leavenworth in the Pacific Northwest. Dining, shopping, lodging. Oh man, maybe Michigan is where it's at. Maybe that's where it's at. I'm going to take a very close look at this. Matthew, if you're joining us, I don't think I see it, but Terry says Michigan has a lot to offer. Yeah, I don't doubt it. I think my problem is I'm just not overly familiar. And I should be, because I know a lot of people who come from Michigan, and they're the kind of people who are like, they love Michigan, right? Like people feel very passionate who come from Michigan, at least from my experience. Mackinac State Historic Parks looks like I don't know, like kind of like European history within, I don't know much about the history of Michigan within, I was almost saying Michigan within the United States. I don't know the history of Michigan very much. I really don't even know what are the main staples of Michigan, like what comes from Michigan, other than the obvious. So this is cool. This has got the trimmings. So let me say this. Let me close with this. You see what Matt did? He put in some gifts, very nice gifts. You know, maybe if this was a couple dollars, okay. And thank you, Matthew, for sending me. It's not that I'm not appreciating. I'm going to use everything you sent me, and I love it. It means the world to me. But what I'm saying is, it'd be fun to see you guys send me things like this. Nothing that costs money, but you know, if you want to just like, hey, you know, a shot in the dark. Maybe Shane will find himself in my home state or a town that I'm nearby. So I should send him some brochures of what I think is really heartwarming, things that I wish other people could see, things that should be documented. It doesn't have to be super popular or famous. It's actually better if it's not. You know, it's really those off the beaten path places, those gold mines where No one talks about them, but they are like must visit destinations. So if you feel that way and you want to send me stuff, again, this will be easier in the future when I have the PO box. But just send me an email, candleenthusiast@yahoo.com, and maybe we can work something out, or at least think about it. And then in time, maybe when I do have that PO box, we can work something out. I think I've done everything today. Okay, so Rose, congratulations on the Kringle Country candle, Black Bat candle. Thank you for letting me share. I think we talked about all of these. It's crazy. This huge stack of books. It's like that big. Thank you for joining me on this Sunday. I'm happy. I'm happy to be back. There's been a lot of times I've done lives in the past, and I'm like, I'm doing a live, but I'm not necessarily going to say that I'm officially back, because if I say if I'm officially back, you guys will cut my throat if I decide to walk away again. But I have every intention to keep these weekly lives going, unless plans have to change. And if they do change, maybe I'll just switch it. Say something comes up on a Sunday, we'll do it on Monday, or we'll do it on Saturday. But I do intend to keep this going. I just really appreciate that, like, you guys just being like, like cool, that like maybe Shane's a little bit rusty. Maybe, the production value is not great. Like, maybe this is not perfect content, but have faith in me. I'll get back. I'll get back to where I am. I'm just trying to get back into the candle enthusiast shoes. I like that guy. I liked him a lot. And unfortunately, I haven't spent a lot of time with this candle enthusiast in a long time. So I want to get back there. He's a hoot. He's great to be around. He's very passionate about everything. Thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you next week. Again, ways to support the channel, very important at this stage, in the comments below. I hate to repeat it all the time, but got to do it. Check all them out. Please leave a comment in the comment section below. If I don't get back to you, I do read them, and I'm going to be getting better with that soon. I think that's it. There's still lots more that we could talk about, so we have plenty of material for the coming weeks, and maybe we'll do like a late night Halloween bash party that's not on the, I don't know, maybe the day before Halloween. Let's do something like that. I'll think about that, and maybe we could do something fun. Kind of like a slumber party. Ooh, like a live Halloween slumber party. Treats, drinks, beverages, horror movies, candy, and candles. I think that could be fun. That's going to be it, folks. Thanks for everyone who's writing in the chat area. I'll be seeing you soon. But until then, be good, and always remember to live enthusiastically. I don't just say that to sound like a catchphrase. I believe in that statement. We do need to live enthusiastically. Like, we got to remember, like, it's, we're just missing out if we don't. So if you feel like, hey, it's autumn, I want to go out pumpkin picking, but I don't know, maybe next year. I don't want to really go outside. It's cold, or it's raining a little bit. Do it. Like, if you can. I know there's a lot of people struggle and to get out and do things, or being in public, whatever it may be. But if you're up to it, go out and do something. You'll feel good that you did. And just keep saying it to yourself. Like, the fear will go away. Or not the fear, but like your apprehension to do something like that will go away if you keep saying, live enthusiastically, be enthusiastic. It's okay to be a child once in a while. All right, folks. I'll see you soon. Thank you for joining. Happy Halloween. Enjoy it. Enjoy the season. How do I end this?